Welcome, YouTube. This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review Blood on the Dance Floor's Anthem of the Outcast EP from 2012. Now, basically, they had an album in 2012 called Evolution, which I haven't reviewed yet. That's on the way. And then they also had another EP that came out in 2012 called Club to Death, which I reviewed with Jackal Goldkick last summer. So this is kind of one that was the interim before they dropped their next album in 2013 called Bad Blood. But this actually is kind of more packed of a project, and it tried some new things on here. There's not a wiki page for Anthem of the Outcast. There's not a ton of information about it. I kind of suppose I could go to Rate Your Music, but it's not going to have that much more information. It's just going to have like the track list or something. So there's really not any much articles about like Anthem of the Outcast really around. I wanted to see what's up with it and kind of see what the dealio kind of is and just kind of wonder how some of this stuff is going to go. And I think the concept about it, the main thing about it is just the fact that this is not electronica and crunkcore type music. It's really kind of a rock band kind of album. Like Blood on the Dance Floor becomes more of a band and kind of has rock music and those type joints on here. They kind of have some similarities to Metallica. They try a power ballad on here. They try another kind of makeshift acoustic ballad. They try a makeshift acoustic ballad kind of similar to the stuff that like Alice in Chains did on like Jar of Flies or something like that. So they do have like some good context, but unfortunately I didn't really enjoy a lot of these kind of rock oriented things. I mean, out of the 8 songs, there's actually 9 songs on here, but one of which is just a radio edit of the single that they dropped. So there's really 8 songs on here, and I only wound up liking less than half of those. That's kind of the concept, but I do kind of look after it. I want to say, I mean, once again, there's not a ton of information about this project, but I want to say that Anthem of the Outcast, because it says on the track listing that there's a radio edit, I want to assume that Anthem of the Outcast is kind of the single. So I'll go ahead and talk about that. It was pretty stellar, but like I said, there wasn't really crunkcore on this project, minus the song Unforgiven. That's the only real classic kind of vintage Blood on the Dance Floor type song, and even that one's really not terrific just because it's 6 minutes and it just sprawls out for too long. I feel like EDM songs should be a little bit more snappy and to the point, but so I'll go ahead and talk about the single Anthem of the Outcast. Now this is kind of like a nice kind of typical punk rock kind of song. I feel like it's very similar to something that like 3 Days Grace would do, or some other type rock bands like I'm trying to think. It just has a real kind of evening kind of feel towards it. It definitely feels like it does kind of come off as like a club song, something that Blink 182 would do, or Good Charlotte would do kind of in an evening sense. This is kind of like an evening, late makeshift, early kind of party club type shift type atmosphere. Something for like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock p.m. It's a punk song, has a nice riff on there, nice kind of mid-high tempo. This has a real nice high mid-tempo kind of feel towards it, perfect for 7:30, 8:30 p.m., but right as you're getting to the club, that type stuff. And it just gives me a lot of good evening kind of feelings and just has real good energy on there. It's a nice punk song for that sort of concept, but it's interesting kind of get this because I do have to credit Blood on the Dance Floor just for the fact that they tried something different. They could have just kept it going and pumped out more electronica and crunkcore type stuff, but they tried some new things, and at least in the single it worked. I definitely feel like another 2 or 3 songs like Anthem of the Outcast, the title track, would have been great. This is probably one of the best songs on the album. I just would have to say it's just a nice one. And I'm going to go ahead and talk about the other songs I recommend out of 8. So there are 3 songs I recommend out of 8 on here if you don't count the Anthem of the Outcast regular version. The version I'm recommending to you, by the way, is the radio edit. That's the better one just because it's more crafted for radio and more crafted for airplay, and it's just a little bit more compact and presentable. But the 3 songs I recommend to you would be Anthem of the Outcast, Hell on Heels, and Your Sorry Life. So to talk about the 2 songs elsewise that I enjoyed and recommend to you, I would say Hell on Heels is a nice romantic kind of trance type song. That's another type of club, if you don't know, is like trance type music. It's this real kind of soft and kind of like real kind of just gentle kind of music, but it's still meant for going out. It's kind of like if down-tempo music was club music, but then it's soft, but it's still kind of edgy, if that makes sense. That's just kind of the concept about trance music, if you don't know the concept about that. Like rave music is more high tempo and quick pace and ravenous music, but trance is kind of like club music for like the slower songs, but still kind of have like some tempo and pace about them. So that's kind of, it's a nice one for to get that trance kind of music. I did like Hell on Heels. It's got a nice emphasis towards it. And then Your Sorry Life was the third song I recommend. And this is kind of like a small venue kind of party song. This is another one that has a nice riff on here, kind of similar to the title track, Anthem of the Outcast. Really kind of gave me like Cage-like vibes. This is kind of more of a small venue type song, and not so much like a stadium or like a humongous kind of night venue where there's just a ass load of people and that type of stuff, just a whole bunch. It just really felt like a more, yeah, Your Sorry Life had a real hypnotic and kind of syrupy hook on here. Definitely should have been a single. Just reminded me of like a real nice small venue kind of party song. Definitely for like a cage type place when when you go to like a cage fight or some sort of wrestling UFC type fight where there's like a cage. Just some place, I can't think of an abundance of clubs that kind of have that cage type feeling, but just something in like a smaller venue type sense, more of a hole in the wall type place where there's going to be music and liquor, but it's just not the bell of the ball kind of venue and like the place, the bop, and it's just not the place in the pad that everyone's kicking it at. So it's just kind of the concept there, but I did feel like it had a nice energy, and the hook is, like I said, it's really infectious. That's a nice one, just like Anthem of the Outcast. So to talk about some of the songs I didn't enjoy, though, I feel like the 5 songs I didn't like, I really felt like the comeback was kind of metal that just didn't work at all. Like, this is an example, the comeback is an example of metal that just didn't suit Blood on the Dance Floor. It was kind of trying to do like mosh pit type music, but I just felt like the riff on this song was really not that good, especially in the verses. This is an example, like Hell on, or Your Sorry Life and Anthem of the Outcast, the title track did this excellently well, but the comeback was just not a good blend of that. So I feel like doing like at least punk music, I feel like they are able to pull off, but when they start going full blown like metal, like Metallica type stuff and AC/DC type stuff, I wasn't convinced enough with that. And I felt like Don't Want to Be Like You was kind of a poor acoustic ballad. This was trying to be like a makeshift kind of pop rock kind of song, but I didn't really vibe and gel with that one. And I also felt like Worlds Away was another one that was kind of like that. That was an example of a Metallica, like really reminded me of like The Unforgiven and like Nothing Else Matters, those type songs. This song really reminded me of The Unforgiven and Nothing Else Matters by Metallica off of the Black Album. But the thing about it is Blood on the Dance Floor trying to pull off a power ballad like some of these rock bands that had like these stadium wave your Bic lighter in the sky type songs, just didn't, that one was not that convincing either. I mean, I do think they had enough the following to be able to do it, but I just question if they really needed a power ballad. And The Calling was an example of a song that was the intro song, but it was dramatic and it definitely felt movie-like and flick-like, but I just didn't find it that captivating. And then I also felt like The Unforgiven, the last track on here, was too lengthy. Like I said, that one was a good beat and really was a nice EDM kind of song, just because EDM was kind of popular in 2012 and the early 2010s and stuff, but it just was too much of, I feel like I said, these EDM songs should be short and snappy. So that's kind of the concept. But me liking 3 songs out of 8, I'm going to go ahead and give this album a 4.5 out of 10, this EP a 4.5 out of 10, because I feel like the songs that I did like are pretty strong, and this actually is on CD, so you can purchase it. It's not just a digital download. But the concept about it is I really I did not expect to only like less than half of a project by Blood on the Dance Floor, because so much of their music I usually wind up liking bewildering amounts by them, but this is kind of a lackluster project in a lot of ways. I feel like the new tricks that they tried just were not that well pulled off and kind of were them out of their element, and some of the shots in the dark just didn't hit at all. And that's kind of the concept. I didn't find them doing power ballads and acoustic ballads very well, and it was really kind of surprising that the EDM song they threw on here was not a good one. So this is kind of the concept, and really the mosh pit kind of metal didn't suit them. So there just were some new things on here that didn't work. There were some new things on here that didn't work, which were kind of unexpected, just because they probably should have been able to work, just because other bands can pull them off, but I just don't know why they didn't. That just kind of happens to be a thing. So 4.5 out of 10. The social score I'll go ahead and give like a 5.75 out of 10, because I feel like some of these are nice club bops, and some of these are nice club bops, and even though they're not on the dance floor as much this time, I still kind of feel like it has a nice social outing about it, and it does have some good vibes for stepping out, and definitely has some nice evening vibes, and kind of just got off work, getting ready to go out kind of vibes. But it's just very trite. I mean, 3 songs out of 8 or 3 songs out of 9 is not terribly serviceable. So that's just kind of the concept. But in terms of the future, Blood on the Dance Floor has disbanded, and really the only member left is just Davi Vanity, who has been, has been exiled from society. And he still does have a YouTube channel called The Most Vivid Nightmares. He does have a YouTube channel called The Most Vivid Nightmares where you can check out some of his music. But apart from that, that's really about it. But I just would have to say this is a decent project, probably worth the purchase just for the quick 3 songs, but it just needed a good assortment more.